Hello everyone, now it's time to understand about the esophagus or the food pipe. We all know that the tongue helps in swallowing the food. So the question here comes that where does the swallowed food goes and from the mouth? So the answer is that the swallowed food goes or passes into the esophagus, that is also the food pipe from the mouth. And these esophagus are basically a food pipe or runs along the neck and the chest region, and the walls of these food pipes run or moves to push the food down into the stomach. So esophagus is just a medium or a pipe that helps the food to get into the stomach. Now we need to understand here that the average or the estimate human esophagus length is about 25 centimeter. So this was about the esophagus. Now it's time to understand how digestion process starts directly inside our mouth. So we all know that our mouth contains saliva, and saliva contains various types of enzymes that is known by the salivary amylase, lysozymes and electrolytes. So these all helps in starch digestion, and this starch is basically the food. So digestion in mouth is basically started through the saliva, and saliva contains various types of enzymes. This helps the food or the starch to get digest, and up to 30% of the digestion is done inside our mouth. Now we need to understand here that the starch get digested with the help of salivary amylase into the maltose, and the pH value of this starch or the condition or the process is basically 6.8. Now two of the basic functions that is performed by our buccal cavity is the mastication of the food. Basically the mastication is the process of the chewing of the food into the smaller pieces that is done by our mouth, inside our mouth, with the helps of jaws and the teeth. And the second function of the buccal cavity is for the facilitation of the swallowing. That means the process or the technique by which the food gets swallowed inside our mouth and passes it to the esophagus and then to the stomach. So these both process or these both functions occurs with the help of buccal cavity. So here we had already understand about the mouth. The food gets inside our mouth through the process of ingestion, and the food gets chewed with the help of the teeth, and tongues helps the food to swallow down, and it passes it to the food pipe. So from here we will understand about the stomach. So before starting the stomach, we need to understand about the food pipe, that how the food get passed inside the stomach. So the food get passed from the buccal cavity into the food pipe through the process of a peristalsis. Peristalsis is basically the process of wave-like muscles contraction of the alimentary tract that moves the food along downward or food down. So if you see in this diagram, you will able to find here that the food, whenever we will locate the food, the contraction of the muscles or the dilation of the muscles occurs whenever food passes from at every point. So if food is present here, it means that the muscles contraction or the dilation will be remain here at this instant, and from here when it passes downward, then the muscles also dilate from here, and before it comes back to its normal position or instant. So this is how food get passed into the food pipe through the process of peristalsis. Now we will understand about, or here are some questions that may arise, that what happens when the food goes down into the trachea instead of the esophagus. So simple answer is here, if food goes down the trachea or the windpipe or instead of the food pipe, then the person is not able to breathe and start choking. How it is possible? So basically our trachea, that is our windpipe, or the esophagus, that is our food pipe, are joined near the top and separate as we go downward the diaphragm. We all know that. And there is an epiglottis. So epiglottis is just an organ, or we can say a thin flap of cartilage, usually covers the trachea. This is just an cover, or we can say a gate, that closes or opens according to the need. So if you see here in the diagram, you will find here that this pipe is the esophagus, and this is the pharynx, this is the pharynx, and here it is larynx. Now whenever the food passes the trachea, that is the windpipe, get closed with the help of epiglottis. So this is an epiglottis, a thin flap like structure that get closed, and the food get passed through the esophagus into the stomach. And when the swallowing process is not going on, then the epiglottis will uncover the trachea, that is the windpipe. So this way the epiglottis works. From now we will understand here that under certain conditions, that the swallowing is too fast, or talking to someone while eating the food, sometimes it may enter into the trachea. So this may cause the airways, that is the trachea region, to get blocked, which is also named by the term choking. So total blockage may also result in the death of the person, and our nervous system also respond immediately to this situation by trying to eject the food as through the process of vomiting. And this is also done by the tightening the muscles between the ribs above the esophagus, and by expanding the capacity of the throat. So this was the answer of this question, that what happens when the food goes down through the trachea instead of the esophagus. So the answer is simple, was that the person will not able to breathe, and if person will not able to breathe, then the person may lead to death. So the next question here, that is it possible to breathe when we are in the midst of the swelling? That means when we are swelling the food, is it possible to breathe? So the answer is no, that we won't be able to breathe, as the trachea is shut off, that is closed by the epiglottis during the time of swallowing. So this was about the esophagus, or the food pipe, and the digestion that starts inside our mouth to the stomach. So in the next part of the video we will understand about the stomach and how the digestion process occurs inside the stomach. So till then, thanks for watching this video.